Daniel Jordan. Dan didn't like the way the old elevators squeaked and shuddered. They were supposed to be fail-safe, but he'd covered a story over in Jack's a few years before, where one newer than this had dropped 20 floors. Broken necks and fractured skulls, and only one survivor, her muffled screaming terrible as the rescue squad rappelled down to cut open the roof. He pushed on the squealing door to speed it up, then held the door for the cameras to roll out behind him. He checked his watch. 6:17. The campus cops wouldn't start ticketing until 7. Maybe the press card on his windshield would protect him. The station only paid for 2 tickets a week, and he'd already had them. Dr. Bell, 436. He turned to the right, and the cameras followed. The small ones stopped every couple of meters to take atmosphere. Bulletin boards, an empty classroom, the sign that read Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics. Dr. Bell was waiting for him in a doorway, a small, stocky woman with short black hair streaked with white, a kindly face with an expression difficult to read. Dan introduced himself and they went into the office. The guy sitting by the desk looked like the janitor, but Dan had a good memory for faces and made the name connection. He held out his hand. "Norman Bell, of course. I went to your concert in the park last spring." The man shook his hand and looked amused. "You cover music as well as astronomical anomalies?" "No, sir." Something about the man compelled honesty. "Actually, I'm tone deaf. It was a date." He laughed. "She must have been worth pursuing." He stood up. "Well, I'll get out of your way." "Please stay, Norman." She looked at Dan. "Is that all right?" He shrugged. "As long as you don't stand or sit together, confuses the camera's tiny brains." They would scurry around getting 2 shots, long shots, intercuts, reaction shots. Half the footage would be of a scruffy-looking man in gray work clothes, temporarily irrelevant. "I think it would shoot best with you at your desk, Professor. I'll sit over here." He indicated the chair that Norman had just vacated. "I'll go lurk by the coffee machine. Want some?" "No, thanks. Just came from Burger Man." "That's how you got here so fast," Dr. Bell said. "I hope it didn't interrupt your breakfast." "Oh, no," he lied. "Just hanging out with the city cops. Trade gossip." He looked at the big camera and whistled, then spoke slowly. "Establishing shot. BG 270 from behind subject to my left." The camera drifted behind Bell and then wheeled out in an arc. "That's for editing back in the studio. I'll just repeat the questions there and they can paste my face in from any angle. So the cameras don't have to worry about me now." The camera completed its circuit and said, "Okay," in a monotone. "Begin at the beginning," Dan said. "How much do you know?" "Almost nothing. You got some weird signal from outer space and the night desk thought it was important." "It is." She leaned back. "I got to the office a little after 4. The screen was blinking for attention." "Can you recreate that?" "Sure." She pushed a button on her desk. "Find today, 0405. The screen began to blink red, saying Anomaly Recorded GRB 10355 EST. Dan whistled and pointed at the screen. The large camera rolled up to it and seemed to concentrate. "Daniel," it said in a soft woman's voice, "please come adjust my raster synchronization." Dan shook his head. "That's automatic in the new models." He got up and peered through the camera and fiddled with a pair of knobs until the picture of the wall screen settled down. He returned to his seat, and the small camera climbed up onto Bell's desk and stared at her. She looked at it warily. "Am I supposed to talk to it?" "No, just talk to me." "What does the message mean?" "GRB-1 is a gamma-ray burst detector. The 1 is optimism. We never got money to launch the second, which would have been a backup. Anyhow, some sources send out bursts of gamma rays, sometimes for hours, sometimes minutes, usually just seconds. This satellite detects and analyzes the radiation. It has a small telescope, essentially a fast wide-angle lens that covers the whole sky every 2 seconds. If it detects a gamma-ray burst, the bigger telescope can be on it in about a second. Does it have any practical applications? One never knows, but I doubt it.